Thank you, Edgar. Good afternoon and howdy. My name is Rick Hanks. I'm one of the utility specialists out of the Right-of-Way Division. And I'd like to start off by saying this afternoon that my part of the presentation is pretty lengthy and there's a lot of complicated data to go over. So if you feel the need to stretch while I'm making my presentation, feel free to go ahead and do so. As a matter of fact, you may want to call your ride and tell them you're going to be late. So with that being said, as you can see, we've had a lot of very talented people and a lot of resources that were put into this effort to develop this tool. And with that being said, the best of tools is only really useful if you're able to get that into the hands of the folks that are going to use it. And so that's what my part of the presentation is that we want to discuss how we're going to go about doing that. Excuse me. So TxDOT, in conjunction with the FHWA and TTI, folks like Edgar, we will be conducting two-day workshops beginning in October, the latter part of this month, and we will be discussing the following topics. We're going to use this to kind of launch into some other discussions as well, but we will be discussing on one of those days the SHARP 2 project, which Edgar just covered. Once again, as an incredibly useful tool. I'm kind of excited about it. It's going to help us standardize the utility process, and this is an area where we do have a lot of issues with utilities, is properly identifying the utilities that are out on a project and how to best manage those conflicts. Currently, we have a mantra in our right-of-way division. It's called the AMA, and it's avoid, mitigate, and accommodate. And what that basically means is the first step in our process after we have identified the utility conflicts is we want to look at ways to possibly avoid those completely. And we've had some luck with that. We just recently had a project where we saved a couple of $1 million by avoiding the utility and looking at ways to design around it, which brings us into the next step of that process, is to look at ways through design to mitigate the conflicts themselves. How can we minimize, if possible, the conflicts that we can't avoid altogether? And then finally, for those conflicts that are just there's no way around them, what is the best way to accommodate them? And this tool is certainly going to help us to achieve all three of those things. So we're pretty excited about that. So the identification of utility conflicts and their solutions is very important to this whole process. On the following day, we're going to cover some of the other big areas that we have that involves utilities. One of them is Buy America implementation. Of course, the law was enacted for utilities in the construction of the adjustment or relocation of those facilities that are in conflict in October of 2013. And so that is a law that we are required to abide by as far as our utility accommodation goes, and so we're going to provide some updates on that. So we figured this would be a great time to do so. We will also be covering some of the areas with Senate Bill 514, which is basically the leasing of TxDOT right-of-way for temporary utility installations. So we will be touching on that. And then finally, as part of this workshop, we will be discussing and giving a kind of a high-level overview of some of our changes to the utility process. Now, the next big question is, where is this all going to happen? Our first one is in Houston, and at the end of the month. Second one is in November in San Antonio, and the third one is in December in Dallas. And you may be looking at my slide here and you may be going, well, what's up with this slide? Well, what we're trying to do is basically we're trying to encourage you to explore the greater Houston and Dallas areas while you're there. And so we didn't provide you with an address at this point. And so you may be thinking, well, what's up with the San Antonio one? Well, that's my particular area, and like many of you, I don't like to be stuck in traffic, so I'm hoping that you will go directly to that location and not hold anybody up and help with the congestion of our roadways. In all seriousness, though, we were still trying to coordinate the location and the dates and times of these workshops at the time the slide was developed. So the Houston office, district office, will be where the first workshop will be held, and that's at 7600 Washington Avenue, And in Dallas, it's going to be at the Dow Trans building at 4625 East US Highway 80. And if you'd like more information on that, you could get in touch with myself or Gary Ray or Paul Fierro, who's in the audience, and one of our other utility specialists. See if I can get this to work. Basically, all of these are very important initiatives to us. We have a lot of data in our utility projects to cover. There's a lot of changes that take place, and as Edgar alluded to, this is a living process. It's not just something that you meet with a utility company at the beginning of a project and you identify what conflicts are there and you walk away from it. This is something that you have to stay on top of and stay with for the life of that project. And by the life of that project, I do mean the entire life of that project. It doesn't stop at design. It doesn't stop with the design efforts. There's a baton that gets passed as far as utilities are concerned as we hand this off to construction. There's always issues during construction. Maybe there was a misidentified utility. Maybe there was a utility that was inadvertently not even identified that we will have to handle or take care of during the construction process. There are change orders that happen during construction that may impact a utility to a greater or lesser degree, in which we may have to come in and do a supplemental agreement to help with that particular issue, or even a utility that was not originally identified as even being in conflict may be in conflict due to a change order. One of the more recent ones that we had was we had a project in an urban area where the homeowners association of a particular development decided after they saw the construction that they wanted to petition for a sound wall. And they were successful in that endeavor, and as a result, that created additional conflicts for the utilities. So this is a changing environment. There's always something going on as far as the utilities are concerned. And so once again, we are very excited to push this effort out into our districts and get this tool in our folks' hands and get moving with the process. With that being said, does anybody have any questions or comments? I would like to note that I'm hoping that my immediate supervisor, Sheila, thinks that was a good save on this slide. And also, I'd like to say that my part of the presentation came in under budget and under schedule. So,
I do want to add that the meetings that he's talking about, the training actually is open to the public in terms of local public agencies or consultants. So if anybody is interested, we encourage you to contact us and send somebody to attend.
Yeah, more participation we have, the better. So, if you want to pack it in, that's great. Any questions, comments? With that, I'd like to introduce our next session with Jason. Sure.
What quality level would you consider the location information on those workshops?
Well, we're involved when the specialists get involved. They're all the highest quality level. Okay, thank you very much.